up because they lacked initiative or lost their initiative for one reason or another, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, and I think Rob was gonna get into that, where like the people have like they lost their drive, right? And for some reason, it's like they're probably not going to get the drive back. You know, it's up to them to get it back. But people in the chat are saying how it's the sick society's problem, and I think it is. Like if we raised healthy children, I think we would have a healthier society. You know what I mean? People actually would, if we raised our children to know that there's opportunities and to find these opportunities and abilities to live different styles of lives or whatever style they want to live, then I think the entire country would be better for it.
But then you leave out the people who want to who do this deliberately. So, some people are homeless because they choose to be. Some people have fucking all kinds of education. They went to college.
That encompasses that, though.
And
what I was saying.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I thought it was kind of like leaving them out because I think that these people don't need any help because if they already know how to help themselves, but they choose to be homeless and stay out of the system deliberately. In my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You should be able to choose your path. You should grow up with knowing the opportunities that you have and the choices that you have to make. Because a lot of people grow up and they grow up in these like a hood area, like a trailer park or something.
Yeah.
And all they see is like, you know, they see poor people and they have poor tendencies, like the rich dad, poor dad thing. You know, if you go into a rich area, you're going to see certain characteristics about that area. Just like if you go into a poor area. So it's like the same thing. Like, I don't care if you want to be homeless. If you want to be homeless, that's on you. But I want people to be able to have somewhere to lay their head for the night. And I think it would be better for everyone in the country and even the world because, you know, with people, when they get their Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when they get the basic needs met, then they can go on to be greater things.
Yeah. There's this weird phenomenon that happens where you go to the country and there is no homelessness.
Yep.
If you're out where people have acreage, the homelessness can't seem to coexist in that realm because there's no entitlements, there's no handouts, and it's a rough environment. And to live out there, you know, on people's private land, you're going to get ran off eventually. So you might see some homeless that go rough it out in the national forest. It's a very small percentage, but I have seen them out there in my, you know, explorations and whatnot. So if you want away from it, I guess you go out of the city. If you're trying to fix it, that's what I'm curious. Do you guys think it's even worth the attempt of trying to fix it at any, you know, like if you're living in an area that is just riddled with homeless, and you're saying, I'm going to stay here and try to solve this problem at some level. The only thing I thought that would be honorable is to start a trust and say, well, people in the community that want to invest, whether it's to do like local education to help people get a skill or a trade where they can be productive in their life, however you'd want to partition those funds, but it'd have to be a communal effort. Otherwise, it's going to be perverted to a degree where you couldn't have any autonomy of it or control.
Which is why I think it's sort of unrealistic until we get a society of individuals who are higher minded, which I think is out of the realm of possibility on a mass scale.
Yeah. Yeah, but at the micro level, you could do all kinds of different things. This whole thing of like where there's a point that you can't affect things, I just can't get with that concept. I don't see where the governor is on that. You know, it can go as far as it can go. I'm not going to limit anything, but you have to start small. So I think that we all agree on.
Sure.
I think it's like cancer. It's like some sort of malaise of the body. You know, you can call it the societal body. There's a cancer. You know, some like serious problem area in the body. And what tactic is there to do, right? Like blast it with radiation, like blast homeless people with money and houses, right? it's probably not going to work, right? When does that ever work? It doesn't work in like the continent of Africa when people try to go over there with charities or something and they give clothes or money or anything. That doesn't do anything.
Handouts
It has to
typically aren't
be
the solution. It's true.
right. It's got to be structural, like deep rooted. Sometimes microfinance works when they're actually like saying like, hey, here's like your phone, like you guys can make payments to each other, or seeds, but it's got to be self-driven, right? So you look at some of the horrible cities in the United States corporation. On some level, there are systemically like areas where like hell on earth, basically, right? Like I've been to Baltimore for a summer, and I mean it's hell, right? But like again, one of my favorite scientists, his name is Buckminster Fuller. He said one of my favorite quotes is like, "You don't change a paradigm by destroying the current one and then build something better.
Mhm.
You change a paradigm by building the thing that you think is righteous and good and awesome. You focus on that. Like the old one is gonna fall away, and at some point, like it is gonna fall away, and perhaps by you focusing on the thing that you're doing, it's really the only thing you can do."
So the way it happened was monopolization through corporate structures. That was like a government regulation anomaly, right? Where they essentially gave the ability for non-liable entities to garner tremendous amounts of market share through banker leverage, through the fractional reserve banker system. So you have a multitude of things taking place there. You've got a governing of mental system working in cahoots with monetary manipulation to allow for managed markets to exist, coinciding with an education that tells a bunch of children they're free and this is all free economies and they live in a free market. We're the freest society that exists. So unraveling all that fucking nonsense and bullshit to get to something real where you say, okay, I'm going to create a solution. You almost have to depart from all those methodologies and just come at it from a practical, basic day-to-day standpoint. If somebody wants a leg up or a hand out of the pit, can we have an accountable way that gives those people a process that's not government driven or motivated, that's private in orientation and helps them in their path to becoming better? Some people would literally sit here and tell you that is the Masons. Go join.
Well, I'm just constantly on the side of everybody gets what they deserve. So, like, I don't think, like, banks don't create homeless people. Like, that's ridiculous. They offer a product and then people go and opt in. And again, like these,
it's centralization. It comes down to everything. Centralized money, centralized food system. If you didn't have that, it goes back to my initial argument, which is you don't have homelessness in rural areas. It can't coexist. So when you have that whole type of lifestyle, not only influenced and marketed to, and then it's also being, what's the word I'm trying to say? It's compensated by the government, or they're subsidized. Yeah, exactly. It's being subsidized by the government. I mean, you have a vested interest for people to have their work and everything centralized in these concrete jungles. And then you have these weird anomalies that wouldn't exist in any natural situation, from what I can tell.
Well, when the hierarchy is clearly immoral, corrupt, not out for the good of everybody and just out for the guy at the top of the pyramid, when it's like that, and when there's a city based on that, well, it's not going to work for the little guy, right? I lived in Moldova last year. There's not a homeless person there, even though the GDP is very low. That's because, like, even the big city is not really big, and everybody has a connection to the hometown that they can go to at any time. Same thing, even on some level in Vietnam. Like, they have still families, so there's always a hometown. Everybody has a hometown to go back to anywhere. So yeah, it's really and it's just, again, it's the same thing over and over. People giving their faith and trust to other people that they shouldn't have done that to. They shouldn't have extended their faith and trust to some police force they don't know, right? Contrast to rural or like 90 years ago, my ancestors in the Bronx, they know everything. What else is there? I mean, you got the people in the chat saying, "Ooh, easy to say." Okay, then stay inside the castle walls. Like, what? I don't. What's your problem? Like, stay there or go and be free. Like, what do you want from me? And it's always the European slaves that are always butthurt about this stuff because like, there's nowhere to go. I can't leave. You can go wherever you want.
I think a lot of people's problems here is like they have children and families, and from their mind they can't really just get out of the castle. I mean, from there.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, whose fault
guys,
is
hold on,
that?
I got a question.
Right?
Often it's usually a woman that's stopping the man
Come on, Nick.
from pursuing his vision and what he knows he needs to do to protect his family and provide and create the environment that's nurturing for the upbringing of their children. So when the woman says, "I will not go to the country," and he says, "Well, I'm not going to drag you kicking and screaming," and she says, "I'm going to drag your ass to the courts and take you for everything you ever worked for,"
Right.
It gets ugly quick. But sometimes you find out that's where the rubber meets the road and the relationship grows stronger, and all of a sudden the journey, that leadership takes the woman into a real, just level of respect for the man, because he led her into a place where her kids were well off and she could do communal schooling and all those things. And, that will change the way the woman looks at the man forever. So he needs to follow his convictions. That's all I'm saying. It's like he can't make excuses and say, oh, I can't leave my shitty ass corporate non-liable job where I'm miserable every fucking day doing shit that I'm not proud of, and I can't sleep at night because I'm afraid that I won't be able to be the man that I know in my heart I need to be. You're just going to have to step up, reinvent yourself, and figure out what you're going to do to pull your big boy pants up and put your fucking bootstraps on and get your double suspenders on.
Easy for you to say.
Figure it out. See, that's it. That's that attitude. It's like, that's your privilege in some respect or somehow, but that is a lot of our stories. Is I came out of welfare, single mother. I didn't have any fucking guidance from a man. I had to figure out how to surround myself with men that could teach me things and show me how to do what I didn't know how to do. I had to take accountability for everything. Not one fucking thing was ever just handed to me on a silver platter. And that's how I've always won, is because I've always had my back, against a fucking a storm or something where I had to turn around and confront it. There's always had something around the corner that was pending that was going to be a fucking big challenge. So if you've lived that way your whole life, you just kind of expect it and you roll with the punches and you figure out how to overcome. But you can't sit there and you can't sit there and say, when you're making 70,000 or 100,000, you know how many people I know, they're making 60,000, even 50,000, and they're just riddled with debt, and they can't muster the self-discipline to say, okay, I'm going to manage my budget, my profit and loss here, figure out how to get rid of all this liability and apportion a certain amount, to my dream and what I'm working towards, so that eventually you could invest into the lifestyle that you want to have. Unless you're willing to have that kind of discipline, you don't deserve it anyway. So you pretty much just have to go fuck yourself. And it's like, I don't really have that much sympathy for you. And if you're that guy that's homeless because of that, because you don't have a dream and you don't want to do anything and you just want to be a fucking leech on society, then why should I care?
Yeah, but I wanted to ask a question about the free market, because you were talking about free market, and then it kind of got taken like a little wild direction. And we don't live in a free market, though. And I think if the market was a free market, I think that the food system would collapse. The current food system, at least, because the current food system is basically propped up by subsidies, and it's controlled by the government. People are told what to plant, how much to plant, when to plant it. They're paid when they don't plant certain things. So, like, I mean, if it was a fully free market, I don't know if like the world could handle that at the moment.
No, Mary, they don't. And that's exactly why I say at some level, I know there are people who have had a multitude of circumstances that cause them where they legitimately just need guidance, and they get on their feet and they'd be able to, and what percentage that is, I don't know. That's why I think it's worth talking about. I mean, at a communal level, if people want to make solutions happen, I can see it being done well and being a viable idea. But I don't think government's ever going to solve it. If the government builds a bunch of pods, you're going to have like FEMA camps, basically. And it's going to be terrible. And they won't manage the sewage correctly, and they won't manage all the health issues, and there'll be some kind of fucking just toxic waste on the particle materials and shit.
Again, why are we asking the government to do anything? Like, I don't understand that. Why would any man or woman that has faith and belief in themselves and their family and their work and what they do, why would you be going to these maniacs, most of them, and be asking them for anything? Like, I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, correct. They're psychopaths. What's the
Most of them, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much all. They make it assist like an environment where if you have any morality and intelligence and wisdom, you can't stay long, right? So I
If
would
they
say
do
the
anything
majority
for
of
you,
them.
it's to control and manipulate you.
Seems that way for any like non 1,000 person town. Besides that, but again, like most places are like that though. So we're really only talking about the blue insane cities, which again are just why are we like, again, I have no like duty or ask for any privileges from any government. So I don't understand why anybody does, because I guess they still pay slave tax in every measurable way possible. So then they like think that they can complain and direct where the funds go. Like I don't really get it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, they vote too, Timmy. You can't forget that.
I mean, I don't think the people here do, but I guess you're just talking about everybody
just-
else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and Voynich is his.
We got
his
33
Dutch.
people watching, right? So
Yeah.
make sure to hit that like button. I'm shushing. I don't know why. It just happens to me sometimes where this speech impediment kind of kicks in and fucks up the whole show. All right, so
Can we-
don't worry about it, guys.
Could we switch gears into something else here? I wanted to throw out a subject real quick and get Timmy's opinion on it.
Oh yeah, that sounds great, man. Go ahead, Freedom.
Timmy, what do you think about the technology, all this invasive augmented intelligence and the smartphones kind of disabling people now, this chat GPT coming in, people not knowing where they are, how to move about with direction. Pretty soon they'll have this thing thinking for them. Do you see that invasive technology that way, or do you see it needs to be transmutated? How do you look at all that?
I think the way that these things get presented are like the people that put them out, they know that 99.9% of people are not going to be able to leverage it in a positive way. So instead of like withholding information and technology, they just like have blasted it out and made it accessible pretty much. So most people will just be like kind of swept away by it in some form or another. But it can be used in a positive way, I think, if you're not a moron. And but I think it's this like information overload for most. But again, it's another thing about autonomy and trust and faith. It's like, I'm not going to put my trust and faith into some large language model to teach my son something. It doesn't make any sense. So, because I don't know how it's coming to those decisions, right? But to figure out what's the best way to learn guitar, and then it can like give you the plan on how to learn guitar in the best way, easiest way possible, fastest way possible, most effective way possible. Okay, great. I'm going to use that to figure out how to, use the guitar. But yeah, ultimately, it's clear where this is going. You see what's going on in China already. It's getting real bad. It's been like that for a while. And obviously, that's going to come to Europe and wherever everybody else allows it to happen.
You mean that it's all leading to that social credit score that they got over there?
I mean, isn't it obvious, right? Like, it is. I mean, they want to put the chips in the cars, make everything electricity, because electricity can go on and off. Your diesel, gas engine can't. So it seems that way, and obviously it's not good.
Like that's one component, and then there's the cyborg component where you're under constant surveillance. You're under some kind of data mining technology that's using algorithms to give you impulses, to influence you, to your decision making, make you more predictable as a consumer. All this weird psychotic control mechanisms of the technology that I don't think anybody considered when they started interacting with it. And now you see you got a whole society where they're addicted like heroin to these devices. And like you said, I think there's a small percentage of the public that can then transmutate that, use it productively, not give up their memory with a GPS and actually consciously take that information, say, okay, I'm going to actually load this in while I'm using it. Now, where am I going? Let me look at a map. And so there's ways to overcome it, but in general, it's not happening. So is this just the full takeover of society to a zombie-like state?
It
where
is.
We're literally just going to have a handful of people that are still human, and there's a whole other species that we're coexisting with.
Y'all been staying up to date on these AI advancements every week, and by 2030, pretty much white collar, there's not going to be white collar anymore. There's no need for white collar. So, and the least affected stuff is what stuff that you do, Dick, and Niall, just blue collar, right?
So the people inherit the earth, though. So most of the homeless, they don't have the technology. So they're actually out there. Even the ones that you'd say is they're maybe they're not mentally stable, right? They just can't be productive, but yet they're not being taken over. Maybe they'll actually be the ones.
I have to correct you there. I got to correct you there because most homeless people, most homeless people do have smartphones. And yesterday, my wife was having a conversation with our friend, and her phone was sitting on the table. It's turned off or whatever. And, next thing you know, she picks up her phone and she starts scrolling. And we've never talked about this place before in our life, right? Never talked about it, never heard of it till this day. All of a sudden, she starts getting all these advertisements. I mean, if you have a cell phone in your vicinity, if you have it on you, if you take it everywhere you go, you're already Chat GPT. You just don't know it. They already know everything you're thinking. They know everything you buy. They know every place you go, everywhere you stop.
Bro, I've seen that they now and they've had this for 10 years already though. So I mean I've seen this already, but I've seen it again lately, where they can look at your brain activity. This is the tin hat comes on. They can look at your brain activity, and a computer can show that these specific brain waves is a giraffe, and they'll tell the person think about a giraffe, and then a giraffe pops up on the screen. So I mean, they're already doing this shit. Digital twin. They got the digital twin. They're running simulations on what would your digital twin do if they give you a stimulus. Here's my take on it, Dick, is this. 15 years ago, I studied all of this as much as possible. I looked at all the CIA documents, all this shit, right? And I said to myself, all right, should I go to a bunker in the middle of nowhere and just be a prepper forever, and then just live in fear? And I thought about it for a while, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna not do that. So I'm just gonna live in faith. I'm gonna live my fucking life, and I'm going to walk with God and just be in faith that I'm gonna have a good life. And it is what it is. On some level, this technology has already been here, and I just think I'm protected, and I'm gonna be fine. And things are going to go well. It's what, or you can be guys like Voynich and Axel, these miserable people that they're so sure the world is just a piece of shithole. It's all going to hell. We're all going to die. We're all slaves. Just fucking leave your, okay, let me not do a Z. Let me not jump out the window too much. But if you really think that, why do you continue to live every day? I don't get that. I don't get it. If you're that sure that you're going to be in a fucking permanent FEMA camp and you have zero faith in anything outside of what's in this external reality,
just off yourself.
Why do you stay? I don't get it. I really don't. Somebody explain that to me. What good do you do by every day in the metaverse going, we're all going to die. You're such a loser. All you people are, you're just positive. You think you're in a cult. You're trying to do something good outside of the societal norm. It's sad. This isn't a fucking meltdown, you moron. I'm just saying you're a miserable cunt and you have no faith in nothing. So, I mean, where do we go with this? How do you wake up every day and you're just a miserable piece of shit, and then you're just I'm going to just complain every day about fucking everything, and I'm going to not do nothing about it? It's fucking ridiculous.
Let's get ready to rumble!
It's just like, I don't get it. Why do you continue every day? Why don't you do something, gain some faith, and do something with your miserable lives?
Thank you. You know, I see these
I
people
don't
out here.
understand.
They're like, "Oh, my bad. I thought you were done."
Please do. Please go.
I was just saying, I see people out here. They're like, "Dang, priests of the Cthulhu cult." It's like in the movies and the games or whatever, that Cthulhu stuff. All the crazy motherfuckers there in their hoods. They want to summon the Cthulhu god. They want to see the end. They're bringing it on. That's how I see some of these people.
They're death worshippers. Like, they're the death worshippers. Like, they're the satanic, like, insane, like, whatever you want to call it, devil. Like,
Christian folks.
they're no, the folks that are like so sure that everything's going to shit, that we're all gonna die. Like, there's no faith. I'm like, they're the death worshippers. Like, they're so sure in their heart, in their conviction, that there is no faith, there's no God, there's no spiritual effect that any of us have on any of this, and there's only the government, and they have all the power, and they go like this. They suck the dick of all the governments, which are just men, and they're like, oh, we're fucked, everything's going to shit. Oh, you know, let's point at the people at the top of the hierarchy, and we're miserable worms. That's how I see it. It's laughable. Like, how weak can you be? You're not that weak. I know everybody in your life just never gave you any encouragement, but you're not that weak. You have a lot of power within you. You can do a lot of good. Stop being such a weak little bitch.
Everybody does. I believe that. And I think one of the best things that people could do with themselves is worry about themselves and not other people. There's a lot of craziness going on in this world. I'm not acceptable of 90% of the crap. But how can I control that? All I can control is myself.
Yeah, good stuff. Right, they're worrying about homeless, and they don't have any food or money to give to any of them, but they're still like, oh, pointing at the government to like give them food and money. It's like, yo, why don't you do something in your community to be valuable, to create an abundance of something, resources, money, food, whatever. Oh, Jackie, good morning.
Good morning,
Good
Jackie.
rising. Excuse
Looks
me.
very comfortable.
The fish tank, ladies and
I'm
gentlemen.
very jealous right now. I can be back in my.
Why not just make your community better, and then you can actually give mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical support to somebody that needs it, and not just be another guy that can't breathe in the airplane. You have to put your fucking mask on first. Yet all these people want to go around going, that guy doesn't have a mask. It's like, yeah, what? So who do you want to help him? Put your fucking mask on and then go help the motherfucker.
I think the matrix that we live in, the wisest thing to do is walk alongside of it, not in it. Just walk alongside of it. Not necessarily complying with everything they do, but just sitting there watching the snowball rumble down the hill, and don't jump on top of it. Don't jump in the snowball. Just stay off the snowball. Watch it go by and just be like, huh? Just watch the snowball roll down the hill.
Yeah, the only winning move to not to play. Don't pick white or black. Just say, excuse, no thanks. Step up from the game. Yeah.
Like, when it comes to, I live in America. I don't know where everybody else is. I'm in America, and I know that the Republican and Democrat Party, both of them are two heads of an evil snake.
Right. Clearly.
Neither one of them care about civilization as a whole. They care about